Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. The preseason is over for the New Orleans Saints, and they did not go undefeated, and that's probably a good thing. That will enable Sean Payton to get his players' attention and make corrections heading into the season opener with the Atlanta Falcons. Lenny, the Saints only ran 38 plays in this game. If this is a portent of things to come against the Ravens, that's the way the Ravens want to play in the regular season. You can't possibly equate this to the regular season, but the Saints didn't get any snaps, so they couldn't get people to work they really wanted.
Well, there's that, and of course we saw no starters basically on either side of the football except for a handful. No Joe Flacco, no Drew Brees, no one of any consequence playing on either side of the ball. So you take some of that with a grain of salt. But you're right. This is a Saints offense, same philosophy, that had 26 snaps in the first 3 series with Drew Brees on the field. Were able to get him out of the game by the end of the first quarter against Indianapolis. They didn't take their 26th snap of the game until late in the third quarter on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So, again, you take it with a grain of salt based on the players who are in the game, but the fact is it is still a scheme against a scheme. And the one thing that Baltimore did was they really played smash-mouth football. They used 2 running backs, ran the ball better than 40 times just between those 2 guys, and really controlled the clock to the tune of, I think it was, 43-16 time of possession.
Yep. Gary Kubiak running their offense and a renewed emphasis on the running game. Sound familiar, Saints fans? You'll see that from the Saints as well, to a degree. Position battles, I think based on what we saw at quarterback, they're going to keep 3, Lenny.
I think they have to. Luke McCown is clearly the number 2 guy based on what we saw. We saw him for one series, an outstanding series, the one time that the Saints were able to go down and get a touchdown. And, you know, I think he separated himself from Ryan Griffin at this point. And based on that, you've got to keep 3. You know, some of the things we'll be watching in between now and 3 o'clock Saturday when cuts are announced, and they could come before then, but that is the deadline. Who's going to be the kicker? Is it going to be Derek Dimke? Is it going to be Shane Graham? I think at this point you can throw a ball in the air. It's 50-50 proposition either way. I don't really have a feel one way or the other. You're going to get down to some of those final spots at 51st, 52nd, 53rd spot, as we've talked about before. Where it's really going to come down to is special teams. That's where those guys can potentially make the field, and you know how instrumental and how many special teams units they can play on is what's going to decide it. And then the other piece that you'll look for this weekend is come Sunday when you can sign now what is a 10-man, not just an 8-man, but a 10-man practice squad. Mm-hmm. So who are some of the guys that they think enough of as young players to bring back on that practice squad? And you talk about a guy like Ryan Griffin. Do they take the chance at some point, if not this weekend, but at some point, to expose him to league waivers and then try to bring him back on a practice squad if he is going to be your number 3? It's hard to carry 3 guys on a 53-man roster at quarterback.
If they like him enough, they can't expose him. They will lose him. Stay tuned. I think Jonathan Goodwin's the center, and then I've kind of shifted my position on kicker. Some of it's luck, and Derek Dimke was scheduled to kick the first half. Shane Graham the second half. Dimke got opportunities. Graham did not. It's that simple. And Dimke knocked home a 49-yard field goal, and he's kicked the ball well, and he comes cheaper. So in the final analysis, given Sean Payton's history for keeping free agents over draft picks, I think Dimke might get the call.
Well, and if he does, he did a pretty good acting job there at the end of the first half. He had missed a 54-yard field goal, but sold that running into the kicker penalty would, you know, a terrific job of acting. He might have gotten touched about like that and then went flying down. And then came back, got another chance, kicked the 49-yard field goal. You okay? Just making sure. Okay. Okay.
Not really, but that's okay. Tulane season opener. It was a marathon, double overtime. Lost to Tulsa. You and I talked earlier, and I watched the whole game and wrote about it. This was a situation where they basically lost the game at the end of each half. Tulsa was the better team up front, but Tulane had the skill to sustain themselves and win the game. They simply didn't finish the halves well. First half, blew it by allowing a cheap touchdown that should never have happened, and then, of course, missed a chip shot field goal that would have won the game for him, in essence, and then the only real mistake that Tanner Lee made was in overtime for the interception to end the game.
Yeah, and the other thing he's got to know, it's the clock in the head. You go back to the end of the first half, the sack fumble that he took that denied them the chance to.
It was
at
not
minimum.
his fault, though.
Right. It was a blitz, but you just at that situation too, you got to get rid of the ball and just throw it away and live for another day and have a chance to kick that field goal at the end of the half. At that point, it would have made it a 24-7 game. Now there still would have been time on the clock.
Well, you say that, but with their kicking game,
it was no guarantee, sure, and of course,
but still up 2 scores.
Exactly, and it definitely would change the tenor of the situation. And you mentioned the other play at the end of the half, letting that long pass happen. But let's focus on some positives here as well. I thought Lee was solid in his first effort.
Better than solid. They dropped 6 balls. He was poised. He was outstanding.
And then Sherman Beatty, who expected that? Over 200 yards, a 90-yard touchdown run. You and I were mentioning, invoking memories of Gerald Soule in his first game in a Tulane uniform 21 years ago. Season opener on the road, went 98 for a touchdown.
Against a pretty good team.
Against a pretty good Alabama team, yes. Beatty goes 90 last night. Had a chance for another 80-yard touchdown run. Got caught from behind. It turned out to be 70-something. Rushed for over 210 yards. A huge debut for the former John Curtis standout, and perhaps if he's around 4 years, that could be a good sign of things to come there.
Been telling everybody about him for the past month, and warned everybody watch him that he would be a difference maker, and surely he was. Of course, now it gets tougher. Georgia Tech, a better team coming in to open Yulman Stadium. One good chance to make one good impression, and we'll see how Tulane fares. High school football. Read about the River Parish Jamboree with Lori Lyons, and of course also the outstanding game between Jesuit and Carr and the Kiwanis Jamboree from Bill Baumgartner. And tonight we'll have coverage of the River Parish Jamboree, the West Bank Optimist Jamboree, and the Brothers of the Sacred Heart Jamboree.
Yeah, in fact, live here, SportsNOLA.com, starting at 6 o'clock, we'll have video and audio coverage as the first NBC Bank Prep Showcase debuts. 4 parochial schools going head-to-head in the first of a multi-year deal down at Nicholls State. I think it's a terrific idea and, something whose time has come to be able to put these events on in this area at some bigger venues. And we'll see Holy Cross against Vanderbilt Catholic, Brother Martin against E.D. White. If you miss it online, Friday night, you can watch it Saturday at noon on WHNO TV 20.
That's pretty cool. We'll look forward to it. And SportsNOLA TV. Debuting this coming Monday. Look forward to that. Of course, Prep Recruiting Insider debuted this past week. We're rolling. It's football season.
It is on. And the sports block, debuting here last Wednesday, rolls out in full force next week. So tune in 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday with all locally produced original shows right here on WHNO TV 20. And, of course, we'll see a lot of that content as well on SportsNOLA.com. Plus, of course, our high school games beginning this weekend and continuing on throughout the football season.
Yep, don't miss the West Bank Optimist Jamboree on radio on WGSO 990 AM tonight as well. Lenny, thanks. Have a great weekend.
All right, have a great Labor Day. We'll see you next week.
That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Preview brought to you by First NBC Bank. With 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond, that's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.